Hello, everyone. Today we're going to look at how you can create your own podcast. And for that, you really need 4 different things. If you want to publish your podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, and also YouTube, actually. So, first, you need your podcasting software. In my case, I use Bcast. On Bcast, I will set up a podcast which gives me an RSS feed that I need to enter into all the other platforms so that there's a connection between the podcast hosting and the podcast distribution. So for that, I'm going to come into my Bcast backend and I'm going to create a podcast. And we're actually going to set up a new podcast. So the podcast we're going to do is the Health and Wealth Power Hour. So I'm going to put the name in here. And then I need to add a description. So I have that prepared, of course. And paste that in here. The description is very important because when people search for a podcast, they are going to, of course, search based on keywords. So that is very, very important. Now, next, the primary category. So in this case, it is about health and let's see, health and fitness. I think that is the first one. And then there's business. Definitely. Let's see. Do we have, I would say, investing. And then the third one would be maybe education, just general education, I would say. Okay. Displayed episodes first to last. I think that is something that we want to turn on. So this is very important. The podcast image needs to be at least 1400 by 1400 pixels, and it needs to be a square. So I have to prepare that in advance. So here it is. You have the host of the show here, Harlan Pickett. And then, of course, the creator of the podcast will be Harlan Pickett. And copyright will be, we'll just enter the year. And Harlan Pickett. And then a brand website. That is basically the brand that is connected to this podcast. In this case, that will be Legal Care Health. Language English, publishing time zone. For us, that will be the central time zone. So Chicago should be fine. The contact name, I'm going to use my own name for now. And then the contact, actually, the name, yeah. Let's actually use Harlan Pickett. And then I'm going to use the general info at legalcarehealth.com. We want to get subscriber notification emails, of course. Include show notes in the feed. Yes, we're going to remove the branding of this tool. And then the podcast type is episodic. We have episodic or serial. Serial is, for example, if you wanted to give a course as a podcast. So you would have a series about, for example, vegan cooking, and then a series about gluten-free cooking, right? Episodic is probably what most podcasts will be. And then we can add a tracking ID of Chartable, which we won't do in this instance. So this is, I'm going to save this. And one thing I do know, I remember now, I need to use my information here, because when we submit the podcast to Apple, Google, or Spotify, it's important that whoever is the owner of these accounts, the email address matches. So we'll just keep that like that. And then I'm going to save this podcast information. Okay, so it's created, it's not live yet. And then here you can see we have that RSS feed that we're going to need for the submission to the different platforms. When I come to the podcast settings, let's just take a look at advanced. We can have global notes for each episode, and then you can make this a public or a private podcast, and then moving it away, that's something else. And then here, of course, we have the sharing links. So we have the basics done here. What's really going to be important is this RSS feed, of course. Now, let's move on to the first platform, Apple Podcasts. I'm going to log into my account here. And this is podcastconnect.apple.com. Okay. Going to allow this two-factor authentication. Always important to keep your account secure like that. And you can see the 3 podcasts that I have here. Now, I probably, let's see, add a podcast, a new show, okay. Add a show with an RSS feed. Okay, so that means I probably need to come here and make that show live. I mean, that podcast. So that is live now, otherwise the RSS feed won't be available. Now, I'm going to come to share this podcast, and I'm going to grab my RSS feed here, copy it. And now all I need to do is come here, add new show, add a show with the RSS feed, and then I paste that in here and I add it. Now this will take a moment. It will be a draft here. And I'm going to have to give it some information. This show does not contain third-party content. And then this is the whoever is responsible for the technical stuff. So that's me. Number. And then we'll click save. Okay. So now this will take a moment. On the Apple side, it will just process for a while, but it's in draft, and that is essentially what you need to do to get started on the Apple side of things. See how they say we're still processing your show details, check back later, and then click publish. And you're gonna have to have a first episode uploaded, so we don't have that yet. Now we do the same at Google Podcast Manager. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna add a show, I'm gonna paste the RSS feed, and then so in Google, it says you need to have at least one episode. Okay, so I'm gonna have to come to this later, but this is essentially it. You confirm if you had a first episode, you'd confirm the selection, get a verification code, verify ownership, and that's it. Then it's live. With Spotify, let me see if I need a first episode here as well. So in podcasters.spotify.com. By the way, with Google, I gave you the URL. Podcasters, it's with Spotify is podcasters.spotify.com. And then you click here, add or claim your podcast, and then get started. Paste in the RSS feed. And also here, it's missing the episodes and the email address. So looks like I need to come back and release the first episode. But that's okay, because once that is done, this is where you submit your podcast. Okay. In this particular tool, we can also connect a YouTube channel to this podcast. And for that, you would have to go to YouTube. And then you need to have permissions, of course, on the account where it's published to. In this case, it would be the Eagle Care Health Solutions channel. And then here on the left-hand side, see you can come to your videos. And then see here where it says podcasts, right? So that will be a podcast. So I'm going to click new podcast, create new podcast. And then here again, we're going to add the title, the Health and Wealth Power Hour, the description that I have prepared. It's going to be public. And I'm going to add the thumbnail. And then I'll create that. Okay, so it's here, it's a channel, no videos added yet. So back in my software of Bcast, what I can do is I can integrate YouTube and let's see if I can edit this integration. It's already connected. And you can see when I go to the episode and I click on it here, there's a YouTube integration published to YouTube. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know.